1994, the citizens of Green River, Wyoming voted to install an intergalactic spaceport with the hopes of welcoming extraterrestrial refugees. The Greater Green River Intergalactic Spaceport is an FAA-approved 5,000-foot-long landing strip that was built to welcome any intelligent life fleeing Jupiter, as NASA had projected a number of large comet fragments would impact the gas giant. Although, perhaps the construction of the spaceport was 20 years too late, as one Wyoming resident had a fantastic encounter among the forests of Medicine Bow National Park. This case file join the theorists as they pop their space pills and go for an interstellar trip in Alien Abduction, the Carl Higdon Encounter.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're back again. Look at us here. Andrew, nice quick turnaround from Edmonton.
Had a great time.
Not really. I was fucking
nice summer
2.5 hour
vacation
delay, stuck on the fucking tarmac, de-icing the fucking wings or whatever.
Always de-icing the wings. Sorry, we have to...
Awful.
Attention passengers, we'll be waiting for the de-icing machine. And this never comes. You sit there for hours.
I almost had my Larry David moment too, because we're fucking right by the flight attendants or the stewardess, or I don't know what the PC word is, but we sat there for 2 hours waiting, and then fucking they're like, all right, door closes. I'm like, fucking, let's go. And then the lady goes like, steps up, grabs the seatbelt and starts doing this fucking thing. And I'm like, we just had 2.5 hours. You couldn't have fucking knocked us out of the park while we were waiting. Like, what do you mean? So we had to sit there for an extra 20 minutes. So I asked her, I was like, you couldn't have just,
gave the quick demo.
You couldn't at least play the French version while we were fucking sitting here?
Yeah, sped it up a little bit.
I thought they were going to ask us to leave, but I was like, no, it's all good. I'll take my pretzels and shut the fuck up.
For the first time since the infamous where I started COVID, I melted. I
the SkyTrain
in public.
SkyTrain station
by accident. I bought Canucks tickets. Got such a good deal. $60 a ticket. My seats could not be worse. It's literally the worst seats in GM Place. That's why they're so cheap.
Top of the top.
Winnipeg Jets. I literally could not be higher. I think when I get up there, they put Fall Pro on me. They clip me in. It's so steep. You just hang standing off the edge.
Serious question?
Looking down.
That's where the real fans are, though, at the top.
Yeah.
Serious question.
Yeah.
You gonna roll a dice and get some popcorn or what?
Oh, buddy, without a doubt. I got a hotel across the street this time, buddy. Right? I'm prepared. I'm not gonna have to do the whole fucking hour and 20-minute SkyTrain when I need the emergency release.
I don't think you should, because you're gonna be shitting near the SkyTrain, and then your child's gonna get delivered too, because it's your kid. He's gonna have to evacuate too. Both you got, right?
I'm not carrying. Oh, you're saying Jamie
share with
the
your
popcorn?
Wife. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You guys are both gonna be. It's not going to be a good scene, man.
Little preemie?
Yeah.
From the popcorn?
Yeah, man.
I'm on the street. Damn you, Rogers Arena.
It's the fake buttered powder that they put on that popcorn.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm excited though. I haven't been there forever, but we'll see what happens. I mean, haven't been in 2 years, 3 years.
Anyways, what are we talking about tonight?
I don't even remember. We never even made a plan.
Murder month is over.
Good old Alien Abduction!
Dan, is that you?
This is me.
Dan's back.
Dan's back.
Returned.
Or did he go anywhere?
I mean, I didn't go anywhere, ever.
I need some aspirin after that. Jesus.
Yeah, the amount of people for the last 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yep.
Does it offend you at all that people could not figure out that it was just a loop of you not talking? No. You're like, hey, listen, normally I'm doing 80% and you couldn't figure out that they're using a 12-minute loop of me not talking, looped continuously. You make literally the same face expression the entire time. And it duped a lot of people.
People got upset.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Should you explain it though? Because there's a few people who listen to this and don't watch it. They might not know what the fuck you're talking about.
So if you're watching the live streams or you go to our YouTube and you watch the live streams after, while we've been recording live and stuff, I have had a loop of Dan and a couple hotkeys of Dan's reactions that I could call to cue when we call him. So it appears that Dan is just sitting there in a foul mood. I made sure to get a clip of the best highlight of Dan in the least impressed mood and cut that clip short. And then I just loop it for as ever long as I need to and hotkey some reactions when we call to him. And people legit thought that Dan was just not participating in the show. And I thought for sure instantly people would be like, that's funny. But it wasn't. Right away, people were like, this is bullshit. Dan needs to grow the fuck up and start participating. And I was like, that was not the reaction that I was expecting. We should probably lean into this even more. So the next two case files, I just was like, even more loops of Dan, even more reactions. And then that one, people were like, this is getting real. I'm getting real tired of Dan and his shitty attitude. And I was like, bullshit. I was like, that's even more funny. So then last week, I really hammed it up. And I was like, if they don't know by now, if they don't know this time, like that, then it's really funny. But so Dan was away on business trip.
Yeah, when you told me you were going to do that, I 100% anticipated this is exactly what was going to happen. I was like, yeah, it's going to be real bad. And then it's going to be, people are not going to figure it out. They're going to say a lot of mean things. And then Braden's going to be like, this is great. Let's keep doing this even more.
It's hilarious.
Let's push this way farther past the point of being funny.
To make it even funnier.
To make it even funnier.
It goes from funny to hilarious.
You have to push past the limit, past the pain.
Yeah,
keep going.
That's my whole life is pushing past the pain.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just like on the sketch.
I loved it. That was genius.
Anyways, tonight's case file is Alien Abduction, the Carl Higdon Encounter tale. UFO.
AKA my trip with Ozzo 1.
Ozzo 1.
My adventure with Ozzo 1. Yeah, that's good.
Bringing it back. Murder Month is over. We had a good time. Now we're bringing it back to the roots. Little alien abduction.
And this is a really interesting case file because there's a lot of tangible evidence, and like, you know, naysayers to this are basically just being like, this is ridiculous.
There's a lot of tangible evidence. What?
What? Tangible evidence.
You don't like the evidence?
Is there any?
Yes.
There's this podcast talking about it.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch! I was studying the wrong thing, I think.
Hey.
We're gonna get to one piece of evidence that is there's no way it couldn't be anything other than alien abduction.
Has to be.
We're gonna get there.
So the events of this specific event took place on October 25th, 1974, and they involved one, at the time, 41-year-old Carl Higdon.
That's all his friends called.
So Carl was going to be a lot of...
Hey, Ka.
So Carl Higdon was a foreman with the A.M. Wells Service Company in Riverton. And this is like...
He's a rigger. In layman's terms, like for nowadays, he's a rigger.
Where's Riverton?
This was Canada. He would have been out in the tar sands.
Fucking roughneck.
It's Wyoming.
Fucking all the above.
Yeah.
Like,
Wyoming.
It's also Riverton, Manitoba.
Oh.
Both places at the same time.
Who got it
this
first?
This is in Wyoming.
This is Wyoming.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Stop bringing Manitoba into it.
So on this day, before going into work, Carl actually got a call from one of his employees and one of his team members or one of his crew members, and told him that he was sick and was sick with the flu. And this specific crew member was one that was going to be like key into the stuff that they had to do that day. So
bullshit. Carl operated on the one for all. He's like, you're sick? We're all sick, baby. Hunting day.
Oh, this guy's key because fucking Carl's the boss. So he can't just watch himself work.
Yeah, he's like, fuck.
Good point. So Carl go ahead and call the day off, figuring that they wouldn't be able to get a lot done that day. In deciding to take off of work, what he actually decided to do something a little bit productive with his day. And since I guess
hold on, we're not for 1 second here. We're not talking about the real hero of the story, and it's whoever the fuck like worked for Carl that has enough like trust in him that when he calls in sick, the whole crew gets the day off. Like when I used to work for my dad, we had this guy Trevor, and if Trevor was sick, none of us worked. Like there was like me, my brother, and my dad. And if like Trevor called in sick, my dad was like,
"We can't do it without Trevor.
We're taking the day off."
Because you guys be all fighting over the fucking radio station, get nothing done.
Very well could have been the case. Now, at the time, I guess Carl Higdon and his family, I guess he had 2 daughters and 2 sons and his wife Marjorie, and I guess they were a little bit in a bit of dire economic straits at the time, and they were they were struggling a bit, and so what Carl decided to do was, with his day off, was to go ahead and pack up his gear, his hunting gear, and then he was going to go out with the company pickup truck and head towards McCarthy Canyon in nearby Carbon County to go ahead and go elk hunting, and then perhaps procure some meat for the upcoming Wyoming winter. Fill the freezer.
I mean, listen, I don't like that. It's if you can like now here, especially in BC, I don't know what it's like in Wyoming, but like I've put in for an elk draw every year I've been a hunter, and I never get it. It's like winning the lottery. Like elk meat is awesome.
This is the 70s, brother.
Yeah, it's 70s. You probably just went out there and just you're just like, there's one.
Elks everywhere. It's an infestation of elks.
But it's like it's really good meat, and it's like harvesting your own animal, man. Like that is more than enough meat for a small family.
All right, Joe Rogan, fucking chill out.
Yeah, elk meat.
All right.
You know what else? You got to get on testosterone.
Get on that alpha beta brain.
I think so much clearer
beta
now
in Joe Rogan's fucking lexicon.
Yeah, it's alpha brain.
All
alpha brain.
Come on.
The only thing I'm taking is beta blockers, bitch. I don't want to talk about it.
Should be. Should be.
Now, on the way to his favorite hunting spot, Carl actually encountered some fellow hunters who were having trouble with their vehicle on the side of the road. So Carl Higdon, being the good Samaritan that he was, pulled over and decided to kind of help them out and see if they could help repair the vehicle. And so, according to him, like he pulled in front of them, helped them. And during their chat, while they were having, I think they also shared a cup of coffee while they were working on the engine. They told him that there was actually a much better hunting spot.
This is the classic
bullshit.
This is the classic line. You get up to the hunting spot first. Someone comes up the road. You're like, I was up there, man. It's no good. You should go down that road.
It's trash.
It's way better down that way.
Yeah. There's no sign.
You
there's
should
no
go as
nothing.
far as you can, deep as you can into the woods. And then once you get there, keep going over the hill, other side of the mountain. That's where the game is. That's the oldest trick in the book. Not over here.
Back
not
here.
down this road.
I've had that happen to me. I've done it to people.
Are you worried you're just going to shoot all the deer?
It's a classic horror setup.
Well, you don't want people in your area. So if someone's about to stumble onto your good area where you know there's lots of sign, you're like, oh, it's brutal. But you know what the funny thing is? Anytime now I've run across that and someone's like, there's nothing back here, man. You're not going to see shit. I go, all right. And the first thing I know, I'm like, where is his spot?
Listen, I feel like they're just trying to be nice to you because I can see you rolling up looking like fucking Elmer Fudd.
I do. I wear the same
shotgun
hat
on your shoulder, fucking, and they're like, I feel bad for this guy.
Yeah.
We got to help him. I'll throw him a fucking boner. His family's going to starve.
Well, you know, the other funny thing is like, I'm like, in another 20 years, like this story doesn't happen because this story does not have more. Braden was helping out some other people with their truck problems. Right? Like, I was like, anyone here know, any of you guys just work on an engine? Any one of us?
I would just tap it.
Yeah, that's all I know too.
Fuel pump, you get underneath and you hit it with the fucking hammer.
Just hit it.
You get to go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the alternator's not working.
Yeah,
little hammer. My dad taught me that. Little bunk, bunk, bunk. I'll tell you this. One time I had a Cavalier. My dad, it was like the alternator. Yeah, you remember?
I remember the Cavalier.
We both had matching Cavaliers.
I used to rear end people for fun. Like my friends, I would rear end them. Boom, just rear end them. They'd be like, stop rear ending me. I'm like, ha, rear end them. And my dad was like, yeah, you just tap the alternator with the hammer, right? Open the hood. If it's not, tap the alternator with the hammer. I'm like, okay. So open the hood, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't really know what an alternator is back then. I kind of know now. Back then, 100% didn't. So I pick something that I think's the alternator. I go to hit it with the hammer, and the hammer just smashes it. And I go, ooh. I'm like, fuck. Turns out I hit the starter, not the alternator.
I like how it's just safer for you to actually not ask which is the alternator, because of the verbal abuse you'll get if you do ask. It's not worth it. So let's shatter some shit until we find
I was like, my dad's talking to me. Like I'm moving up in the ranks, right?
Until you took a hammer to the fucking starter.
Yeah. Well, then I sold it to a buddy right after. Sorry, Joe.
Oh, you gave him his money back, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And the motor blew up instantly when he took it over. He drove it around the block. The engine exploded. Long story short, in this day and age, if you're stuck in the woods, you're dead.
Yeah.
Don't expect a Carl Higdon to come along.
Yeah, I've seen enough horror movies to see how this starts. Like this all lines up. So the pair of hunters that he helped out told him that there was good hunting over in a remote section of Medicine Bow National Forest. So Carl went ahead and altered his plan and decided to head towards that national park instead.
Carl.
So
Carl made the fucking rookie mistake there.
So it was already pretty much, later in the afternoon. He arrived at his destination around 4 p.m. Now, once he exited his truck and he was preparing his hunting gear, Higdon actually spotted another hunter and his friend, Gary Eaton. There's a little part in the story here where it's like some articles say he talked to Gary Eaton, and then there's actually a book that was published in 2017 written by Carl Higdon's wife, which I read, and it said he talked to the game warden. So I don't know if Gary Eaton was the game warden or just his
Everybody
friend.
knows Gary Eaton's the game warden, Dan.
Well, one of the article that I read was like he ran into the game warden, who is Gary Eaton, who he knew. And I'll say this. Okay. I'll say this. As like, I don't know. Again, I am only talking from my personal experience in Canada, a lot different than Wyoming. But like conservation officers up here, there's like two. So it's like it's the same two that you were like in my area. The whole Vancouver Island, there's like two. So it's like if you run into them, it's like it's one or the other. So it's like you get to know them. Like when you see them out and about. Yeah. So I don't think it would be uncommon. And again, I don't know what it's like in Wyoming, but I imagine it's somewhere where it's
I'm
like.
sure it's the same. There's only
he's the game warden. It's like he's out and about. So if there's hunting areas, he's out there. He's doing roadblocks. He's doing checks. So it's like he would probably get to know all the old boys that are hunting, because that's what our conservation officers do. Like they park at trailheads and they just talk to you as you're going in, talk to you as you're coming out.
Right. So after talking with Gary informed him that he was actually going to go higher into the forest where Higdon was planning to go. But he made the joke that he might scare down some elk from him. So he was going to maybe push him down a little bit further. Now, Higdon decided, like, once he got into the park, he decided to explore an area that caught his eye that seemed to be kind of concealed behind a hill, as he describes it. And then behind this remote, in this section of the forest, he said that like right away, within, a short amount of time, he spotted a small herd of elk.
And he just started blasting from a distance. Didn't even look at the horns.
Yeah. The good old days. Just and then I started blasting.
I mean, that's how it pretty much sounds, because it pretty much sounds like he snapped to, and he decided to take aim at one of the animals and fire. But the thing is that when he fired, a strange occurrence happened. The first thing that he noticed is that he didn't feel any recoil. There was no kickback from the gun. And then he also said that there was no sound whatsoever. And
he forgot to load the rifle. That's what happened.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, this was a brand new gun which he had purchased. It was like a 7mm Magnum rifle. Like, what is it? I'm not super familiar.
I'll tell you this. That like
7mm rifle. Yeah.
Right.
I've had like, this would be super rare because I used to shoot a 30-06 that kicked like a mule. And it was like, literally, if I was taking aim at something, I would be aiming. And then as I knew I was going to pull the trigger, like my whole body is like, preparing for this thing because it literally hurt to shoot. And then I kind of downsized to a 25-06, but it's still like, when you shoot a gun, the noise and the kick, like it's always, you're not, unless you're shooting a little 22 or a BB, you know what I mean? Like you're feeling it, you're hearing it. Like it's not like you're like, oh, hold on, let me just twirl up an earplug here and put it in my ears before I take the shot.
Your gun shouldn't hurt you though on the kickback unless you're not holding it tight against your shoulder.
Okay, all right.
Or you're fucking soft.
All right, buddy.
Shouldn't hurt. Like it shouldn't like physically. Maybe if you shoot like a bunch when you're target practicing, but one shot.
Hey, listen, I'll give you my Browning 30-06 lever action rifle.
I've shot a bigger gun than that.
And I'm just telling you, that gun specifically kicks like a fucking mule.
It hurts. We're gonna have to take his word for it. Dick measuring contest here, boys.
I had to put a big foam butt pad on it because it hurt so bad when I shot.
Yeah, but you sit on a foam butt pad when you drive, so you're fucking soft. Man.
No, like, it's beads. Beads, okay? Beaded pad.
So no sound, no kickback,
and in addition to that, Higdon would later swear that he could see the bullet exit out of the barrel of the rifle, travel about 50 feet as if it was moving through in slow motion through like ballistic gel is what he.
Yeah, it's like this guy took a hit of slow-mo. Right.
Yeah. And from Dredd.
From Judge Dredd.
Right? Yeah. And he's just Max and now Payne, he's just
bullet time. Like
yeah, exactly. And he's all of a sudden, you know, using the speed force and he's just doesn't know what's happening. Like he's like looking around like he's with it. Everything else has seemingly slowed down around him.
Right. And the another unusual thing is that the bullet didn't travel its full distance. What he said is it traveled about like he estimated around probably about 50 feet before it appeared to just plummet to the ground and just right in front of him, just plop onto the ground.
Weird. So like something stopped it.
Right. So this is a quote from Carl. I couldn't believe my senses. Instead of powerful
that's not how he talks.
How does he talk?
Well, you can barely understand him. Let me tell you that.
Can barely understand. Mumbling.
He's mumbling.
Are you talking about the video?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm like,
well, that video is from like a couple of years ago. He's pretty old.
I think he passed away.
Man. Yeah. That would have been, yeah. I mean, he wasn't in that video. I don't think he was in the best of health like that one.
No, it didn't sound like.
So he says, I couldn't believe my senses. Instead of a powerful blast, the 7mm bullet left the gun's barrel noiselessly and in slow motion. It floated like a butterfly, finally falling to the ground about 50 feet from where I stood. I was awestruck. I was froze. All around me, there was a painful silence. Not a chirping bird or the rustling of leaves on a nearby tree could be heard. The only sensation I could detect was a tingling feeling which crawled up my spine. This was similar to the feeling you often get before a fierce thunderstorm when the air is full of a static electricity.
Now I know
spider sense telling you're about to get probed.
I know that's like how you can just feel it in the air sometimes when the thunderstorms come. Like you can just
I listen to Phil Collins.
Feel that, right?
Spine tingle.
But it everything else about this like kind of lines up. Like it's super eerie where it's like when you're in the woods, like there's never a time where you're like you're hearing nothing. So it's like the fact that everything around, and I wonder if everything around him just goes silently and then he just feels this like the thunderstorm. I wonder if that has something to do with this area he's in. specifically affected. Whatever technology is being used to do this, if this is the case, but it adds up to me. What I was kind of wondering is if someone was out of the range of whatever is affecting Carl here, would they still hear everything? Would they have seen the gunfire, like hear the gunshot? Like, would they have been affected?
Something's obviously like the how far did the bullet travel?
50 feet.
Yeah. So it's obviously something affected it, right?
It's obviously in some sort of zone, right? It's obviously in some sort of zone this is affecting. So what I'm saying is if there was an observer to this event.
Yeah, but so if it was normal to somebody else, I understand what you're saying, but if it was a normal event, the bullet would have traveled far too. It wouldn't have just stopped that short.
Yes. But what I'm getting at is because Carl was seemingly unaffected by this, everything around him was, would someone watching this event, say standing outside of the affected zone, see Carl pull the trigger, hear the bang, Carl's gone. Right, because now he's moving he's essentially moving so fast.
Drastically affected time and space.
And if you remember the case file with the Voronezh UFO, where we talked about something affecting, remember they popped down, grabbed that kid, the kid screamed, they grabbed the kid, and the kid just disappears with them. And we joked about them kind of being on a different frequency. That's kind of like where my kind of brain was thinking of, like, I wonder if this is similar technology, comparable technology used in that case file that we talked about.
Perhaps.
So like I said, Higdon was actually able to see where his bullet landed. So being of the curious sort, he went and actually was able to go and retrieve the bullet from the ground. And upon an inspection, he noticed that something unusual, I guess, had happened, that the lead portion of the bullet had disappeared and that there was only just this oddly misshapen case that was left.
So when I read that, I was like, because it
doesn't make sense.
You have the bullet, like the tip, the projectile, and then the shell filled with powder.
Right.
So when he said that, I was like, so he went to pick up the bullet, it was gone, but he found the shell. The shell would have been back where he shot. So I thought the bullet was was it a tube? Was it like a hollow point? It had like a different tip.
That's what I was thinking too. Because this, if you've shot a gun, when someone says like, "Well, I shot the gun and then I went and picked up my casing 50 feet where it dropped," I go, "Well, your casing would have ejected either like if it's a lever action, your casing ejects when you reload the next one. If you're shooting a semi-automatic, they're usually ejecting out the side, right? The casing." Right. And he's saying like the description by all accounts is he goes forward and he finds the casing. The lead, that's the bullet that ejects off. So it's right.
The actual projectile of the bullet.
Shoots out the barrel and it fires, right? And he's saying that part's missing, which makes sense because that would be missing because you shot your gun. But the weirdness of it is like your casing shouldn't be there.
Right. I mean, I could chalk this description up to maybe like his wife writing the story, that she's just not
just
really
miscommunication
familiar.
In the story.
She's not totally familiar with firearms. Yeah. And but the thing is that, just so we know, is that he picked up something, like he picked up the bullet, like the bullet was all mashed up, like it hit something.
Well,
and it was on the ground.
It's perfect you said that, because one of the articles I read, it sounded like the bullet, which travels 50 feet and falls, hits some sort of force field, right? He watched it, slow-mo, the bullet go and hit and land, and his wife just doesn't know enough about ammunition to be like, oh, is the actual bullet is what hit, and that's the mangled portion that he picked up.
Mm.
And I heard, like, when you say mangled, one of the accounts I read that the bullet was actually like inside out.
Right. Well, yeah. Like later when because later he would have this. I mean, we'll get to it, but it's like later after he retrieved it, he retrieved the bullet and he put it like in his canteen pocket. Like he put it in his canteen pocket to kind of just, as something that was strange that was happening. He wanted to be able to have a little piece of evidence of something weird was happening. But things got even weirder.
just to paint a picture, maybe for Andrew, like what you're saying is, because that I read that too, but like if it's, we kind of heard that like he sees this thing moving in slow-mo, like it's going through ballistic jelly, but in real time. And then it hits something. Maybe it doesn't hit like a firm object like what we're thinking of, but it hits some sort of force field the bullet actually hits and it kind of goes like inside out, right? Where like it kind of like flips in itself as it passes through this force field as an impact, right? Which would, I don't know. I'm just trying to account of how this would affect the bullet to turn inside out. I
know. Well, I just get ready because shit's going to get way weird.
Something magical happened at this time. Yeah, that's all we can tell you.
Something magical happened.
So as he's placing the bullet in his pocket, Carl is actually alerted. He hears a sound since everything's quiet. It's you could probably hear a pin drop, but instead he hears a twig snapping behind him, and so Carl spins around. And I believe he raised his rifle at first, or he was going to raise his rifle. And then he kind of lowered it down, seeing that the thing in front of him, at first he thought it was another hunter. He thought it was another person because it was shaped very much like the silhouette or kind of the figure that he was seeing. It had 2 legs, it had a torso, 2 arms, and a head. So he thought it was just another hunter. But as it came closer out of the brush, what he saw before him was definitely not human. It was humanoid. You could say, and that's what he refers it to. But it was wearing a.
Was it how many? First question I'm going to ask is what was the clop situation?
It had 2 eyes.
It was a biclops. Okay, biclops.
Biclops. We have a biclops
classification.
Biclops, bipedal.
There we go.
Yeah, it was a figure that was decked out in this skin tight black one-piece outfit. Which had these, he describes it as having a pair of harness-like straps that crisscrossed across its chest, and then also had a metallic belt, which he's recalled seeing some type of like yellow 6-pointed, what he says is a 6-pointed star, seemed to look like.
Oh, this is a space Jew.
Future.
What are you talking about?
Now, the physical description of the creature is something that is, it's been represented in artwork because eventually, after his experience, Carl would go on to talk with like a number of artists to kind of illustrate, try to get a picture of what this creature looked like. But just to describe from his description, he said that this thing had no detectable ears, it had very small eyes, and had no eyebrows. The hair, if you could call it hair, that was on his head, he said seemed to be like, it was just kind of very coarse, and he compared it to straw.
Pubes.
Like just like, straw, like tubes of straw just like growing straight out of its head.
Yeah.
And it had a small like slit-like mouth, and he said it had these he said what exposed, like there were 3 large human-like teeth.
But big old chiclets, 3 of them, top and down.
Big old buck teeth.
Big old buck teeth, triples, up and down, like horse, just big old grinders.
With a big,
and there was
underbite?
No, perfectly even.
No, just a line, just like 3
imagine they open the big mouth and it's just like 3 giant teeth instead of all your teeth. Just giant 3 teeth.
There was some of the remarkable characteristics was there was no chin to speak of. Like the head just went kind of straight down. Like it was just kind of like from the mouth down. And then you had the where his right hand should have been on a normal human. They said there was some type of drill or cone-like device that was attached to the wrist.
Fist. So he's got a drill fist.
That's a Prober 3000, baby. Where is that shown? He's like revving it up.
And then on the left arm, Carl noticed that there was nothing. It just ended in just kind of a stump. Like there was nothing there, like a smooth.
Well, that's because it's for, they have the quick attach probe attachments.
Sure.
Right. And he's like, okay, I got this one, usually works.
Right.
But just in case I need the triangle one, I'll leave this one empty in case I need to quickly clip it in.
Yeah. As you do. Yes. So, Another thing is that the creature, he said, like as it moved towards him, like it was bow-legged. Like it had 2 legs at the bottom, but it was very like, I guess it was kind of walked with like a bow-legged gait.
Yeah. If you don't know what that is, imagine yourself riding a horse and then take away the horse.
Yes. And the creature moved straight towards Carl, like noticing him standing there, and addressed him directly, saying, "How you doing?"
Hey there, bud.
Hey, how's it going?
Like he's
How you doing?
What language is he talking? Is he
English.
Is he beat bopping, or is just
English?
No,
Is he
English.
bopping?
Yeah, as far as Carl could determine, it was English. Like it was perfect English.
As he waddles in with his one cone hand.
Yeah. Just kind of like moseyed in, like just moseyed over to Carl and, how you doing? Like that's what it says.
Hey there, partner.
Part of me thinks when you read this story, it makes a little more sense when I was reading it. A part of me went, I wonder if he actually saw this thing talking, or if he just thinks he did, and this thing was just, he heard it in his like head, like, oh, how's it going? Like whatever it was telepathically communicating with him, because I think it would be easier for me to think that something could telepathically ask you like how you're doing, rather than being like some like bow-legged creature from like, just be like, how's it going?
Yeah, but they traveled this far. You don't.
It
think
just
that
seems
they'd
a
be
really
able to, like, intelligent enough to like learn our.
You're using slang. You're using slang.
Well,
how's it going? How you doing?
It just seems like an exceedingly familiar way to address somebody. To be just like, how you doing?
He would be comfortable hearing, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm just judging. I'm judging it by his. Because we talked about he had a very small mouth. So did he and a no chin? So did he have
Did he have the
attributes to be able to actually speak clearly? Because it seems like
he had a mouth.
The way that his description is, but like there's no way he can open his mouth because he's got no mouth, no chin.
No, he has a mouth,
but it's just very
like
small mouth and no chin.
Yeah,
he's got
no lips.
Teeth.
And he's got no lips.
I mean, there's plenty of people who have small mouths and they can still talk.
But they don't have 3 teeth and a tiny chin.
But they still got teeth. I mean,
okay, so
I don't know what it would sound like.
I know people. Hey, listen. I know people with no teeth that can talk.
This is true.
I don't know.
Sure.
Does he have a tongue?
I don't know.
That's what's important.
Probably
tongue would be important.
Well, you need that to be able to speak.
That's true.
Yeah. So we can. He's got 6 giant teeth and a tongue for sure.
For sure, we know that much.
And a itty bitty mouth,
little lips,
little purdy mouth,
little purdy bird mouth.
So Carl, to his credit, even though he is shocked by what he has seen, flabbergasted, he does respond and kind of just says like, I'm okay. Like, I guess like I think his response varies depending on like which article you read, but it was something like just like
pretty good.
I'm good, I guess.
Well, one of the accounts that I read was that like Carl said that he was so scared, but he was trying to like keep his composure so that this thing didn't know he was scared. So he was just like, good. I'm good.
I'm good. How are you? Yeah. And the creature kind of asked to follow up, and he was like, are you hungry? And Carl replied, just I didn't really kind of know what to do, but I guess he just decided to be just honest and was just like, a little, like a little. And so the creature apparently floated over to him, like withdrawed it from a pocket or a storage compartment or something. There was a
Mentos fresh. He's got better.
What did he grab it with? He's got a stump and a fucking drill.
No, he floated it over.
He floated out. He came probably shot out of his sleeve.
Oh, so it's a wand. It's a Wingardium Leviosa. He's got a wand hand and drill hand. And fucking, all right.
So
it's the man who hunts. Come to die.
So the creature like floated over between the distance of them, between the space between them was what seemed to be, it was a packet of pills, and told Carl, take one. And
fucking Tic Tac, baby.
you know, and of course, like, you know, as I'm sure Carl's a smart guy, and he's like, you know, who the fuck's going to take
drugs
pills?
from strangers.
I don't take pills from strangers. This isn't a rave, you weirdo. Like,
there's no way though. Like in this situation, like this thing's just like, take one. You're not taking it. Everyone here is taking that pill. You're just like.
Not only does he say take one, he says it will last 4 days.
Yes.
What do you mean it's going to last 4 days?
Yeah.
Just raving.
Yeah, I mean, probably 4 days. I'm like, 4 days? Like, I've got work in the morning.
It's just a slow release, like LSD pill. Just slowly dissolves over 4 days.
And Carl is not usually predisposed to taking any pills of any kind. Like, usually he's like, he says that he was usually like not even a person, like a fan of aspirin. Like, it wasn't really that kind of person.
Well, it's because they pissed us those riggers so much because they're.
And so, but Carl says that he did take one of the pills, and then he kind of did so without any hesitation. And he says that whether it was a shock or something else, some kind of compulsion that was placed inside his mind, he felt that this is just out of the normal behavior for him, that he took one of these pills and just kind of downed it.
I would also assume that like you're in the middle of the woods, you just saw your bullet fucking go slow-mo through the air. There's a real primal fear in you that you're about to die. I bet.
Buddy, listen, the bullet thing, you got to do with a drill for hand.
Yeah, buddy, Andrew, don't even lie.
Fucking it.
You'd already be bent over.
No, I'd be gone. I would not even, he'd been, how you doing? And he would have been talking to nobody.
Peace.
I would have been fucking gonzo, man.
Yeah, you would have just running in place.
This guy,
buddy.
He's literally fucking handing this guy over some fucking Flexeril, some cyclobenzapine, a muscle relaxant, because he's about to fucking probe the fucking shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
He's got a drill for a hand. This guy's going to get drilled. Like, come on.
It's not looking good.
Yeah.
No.
After taking the pill or whatever it was, Higdon said that he became aware, like kind
fucking
of
Rufalin,
taking in a little bit of the surroundings and what was kind of behind the creature itself. He said that he noted that there was some sort of like transparent or cube-shaped object like on the ground behind the figure. It was about like he was saying that it was about 5 by 5, like 5 feet by 5 feet, like is what he could kind of determine, like what was there, this object. And he said that he kind of had the feeling that this was the craft that the creature was traveling in. Like that's what he got the impression. And so as Carl is noting this and staring at its ship, for lack of a better a better word for it, the alien kind of asks, like, "Do you want to come along?" This is a quote. Like, it's, "Do you want to come along?
Come for a ride?
Do I have a choice?"
Hey, Carl, you cool?
You took that pill, man. You cool, man.
You cool? Why don't you come along?
And
listen,
get to know
Carl,
each other better.
Hey, you don't got gas or grass, buddy.
Yeah, it's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Fucking.
And so Carl, as he recalls, like during the event, he said he could just he shrugged his shoulders, not really as a consent or anything, just kind of being like, I guess, maybe, okay. And the creature took it as consent, and then.
Well, I think you should have been, if you didn't want to go, Carl, at this point, give him the old no means no. But you didn't.
No.
Hey, listen, when he's done, he's going to be talking the alien's going to be talking all about the implication.
Yeah.
It's the implication.
Right. He had a drill for a fucking hand.
And after Carl goes ahead and shrugs his shoulders and the creature somehow takes that as consent for what's about to happen. Carl's memory after this goes a little bit spotty. Like the events leading up to this are very, very much like sequential, and he remembers everything pretty clearly. But after this, after that, he says that it was
very
almost
quickly after the pill, things get fuzzy.
Not surprisingly, the 4-day slow-acting LSD pill is taking effect.
The next thing that Carl recalls is that he was strapped into some kind of high back seat, which he kind of compared to like a bucket seat. And that there's something strapped onto his head, some type of helmet or some type of device it was strapped onto his head. It kind of restricted his movement.
Fucking
and he couldn't really see.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You know how expensive that pill was, Carl?
And but the thing is, also the interesting thing is that Carl says that he could sense somehow behind him in the ship, like where they were. He was sitting in this seat, which I think there was more. I think he said there was more than one. There was like a couple of them, like 4 or 5 that he noticed. But he was also able to sense behind him were the 5 elk in the herd that he had been tracking.
God damn! Now it's a party.
Yeah, some interspecies erotica.
Yeah, it's just getting weird now.
Carl recalls like looking down through the seemingly transparent floor, and that the creature made some motions with its appendages, with its arms. And then Carl said he could watch as his truck and the ground receded beneath them at fantastical speed, like just shooting up.
And just so we're all aware, like
Fly the
just
Navigator
to be
style.
clear, when he says he made some motions with his appendages, it does not clarify arms. Dan clarified arms. It doesn't say that. It just says appendages. We don't know which ones. All right. He just made some motions.
Just fucking windmilling that thing up.
Spinning and sinning.
Let's get this thing going.
So that's a different type of propulsion we're talking
yeah.
about.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's physical propulsion right there.
Yeah, the old D drive.
Anyways, just before we keep going with the case, we gotta grab a quick beer, take a short break.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. We're back.
Andrew, I want to really see you in one of those, those Costanza Gore-Tex jackets, like those the huge ones.
Hey, you get it, I'll wear it, buddy.
We should have a temperature gauge on your
How
on
cold
your
is it
screen
in
there.
Andrew's
How cold is
garage?
it? Right, and you control the thermostat. Tip us. Andrew's thermostat goes up. Hey, it's either hair or heat, right? What did we say before? So,
I'll freeze.
yeah,
He's gonna start
You
just
got more
getting really
hair?
sleepy.
yeah, you're warming up already. All right, where were we?
Carl Higdon is on his intergalactic voyage.
Yeah, he's strapped in.
He's strapped in, ready for action.
right?
Yeah,
Rolling.
whether he likes it or not.
Yeah, not really sure if he wanted to go. This creature doesn't care.
He didn't say no, though. Let's be very clear.
He didn't specifically
not
say no.
say no.
So I mean, in a court
And
of
in
law,
their culture,
like,
a shrug might be a yes.
this is true. So from this point, the events that occur while Carl is aboard this ship are the memories that he had are sporadic, like we mentioned before. The things that he remembers are a little bit different depending on which account that you read, articles that you read. Some people will kind of include the things that he actually eventually would engage in, like hypnotic regression, and so some of the events would get kind of mixed up together. But kind of just going with all the original kind of story as Carl told it, he kind of remembers that not only was there one creature in this craft, but eventually like a second one emerged, and that Carl was floated down, or he calls floating down some type of brightly lit corridor to participate or be subjected to some type of what he assumed was an examination. And
Wrong assumption.
Hold on.
Bob.
Has old fucking Drill Fist here, has he introduced himself yet?
So whether it was when he immediately boarded the ship or a little bit later,
as he was fucking elbow deep into Carl. Oh, hey, I'm
hopefully before. I mean, you got
I'm
to introduce
Azo
yourself
One, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, the creature identifies itself to Higdon as also one.
Yeah, asshole one for sure.
And so after some type of examination, the creatures communicate to him that in so many words that he is not what they want, and they will take him back. So
basically, he just
fuck him and chuck
him. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. Well, actually, it's you. We gotta take you back.
Yeah.
And so not only does the events like happen on this ship.
Our boy Carl's going for an intergalactic fucking walk of shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's not the one we ordered.
Maybe they felt bad that they kind of picked him up and taken him out of his natural habitat. So they decided to at least
he was just crying a little too much. It made it awkward for them.
This isn't going to work.
But they decided to take him on a little tour. Not only of their ship, but apparently to what was their home planet. Carl actually remembers the next thing after the examination, that being in this transparent ship, he remembers being in the presence of an intensely bright light, like a light so bright that it's actually physically hurting his eyes. Like he couldn't look at it.
Don't stare at the arc welder.
Yeah. And then, but through this light, Carl said that he could make out what appeared to be a tower of some sort. And in Higdon's description, he compared it to what the Seattle Space Needle looked like, and that was kind of the most prominent feature that he was able to identify as the ship was approaching this planet. It was another planet, and that this tower, not only in case
let us show us your planet. He's like, "Are we in Seattle?" They're like, fuck, all right.
But this tower, he also described, was surrounded by what seemed to be some type of aura of shifting colors. Is what he described. Now,
let's also not forget that Carl is fucking tripping his balls because he took some weird space pill.
Done a 4-day space pill.
That's lasting 4 days. Yeah. Some space peyote.
So Carl remembers that the craft was put down and landed in front of the tower. And I think he estimated somewhere around 150 feet. And that Carl was escorted inside by the two beings, but they didn't walk, that they floated everywhere, that they just kind of, float as you do. And
when you're high as fuck.
Yeah. You can go anywhere you want at that point.
And so here inside this building, inside this tower facility, whatever, I believe that he was either subjected to an additional one, or this might have been actually when the examination occurred. But he does remember saying they kind of put him in what was he remembers some type of wall coming down, some type of a barrier of some type as they brought him in, and he was still kind of unable to move of his own accord. But he says that perhaps this was some type of scanning, because he remembers being in there for a couple of minutes, what he estimated.
So you actually gave me a kind of an interesting thought there when you just said at that point you could go anywhere. It made me think that maybe whatever he took was some sort of consciousness opening drug, and that maybe his physical self never left, right? But he went on a trip with these people, but it was on some different plane of existence.
You take this pill, you can access this ethereal plane and travel across the galaxy
it just
and blink. I like that.
So,
yeah, it does line up with a couple things that happened. So I was kind of oh, maybe this all has to do with something about this pill.
Just an intergalactic trip is what this is.
Well, or just releases your consciousness for 4 days. This will last 4 days before we got to
unbind you back to your body, earthly realm, and you can then travel
or your earthly vessel, right? your third dimensional plane of existence for 4 days, for 4 of your Earth days.
Earth days, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also it. Now that I think about it, how do they know 3 of your? Yeah, why do you not? You didn't specify what days. So what if the orbit?
Then he landed
planet,
and said, "How you doing?"
I know,
right? So obviously they got some knowledge. What's going on here?
So this after the scanning is what Carl kind of described it as, or he assumed it was happening. The Ozo 1 came back and took charge of him and brought him along and kind of started to tell, or at least relay to Carl as to why, like the purpose of his visit, why he was on Earth. And so according to also one, his race had been coming to Earth in search of fish and animals, and specifically these fish and animals that they would retrieve. He said that they would use to make these pills, which he had given Carl some, and that these pills were designed to like satiate hunger for like 3 to 4 days.
Yes.
Like that's what you're supposed to do.
And what's the bean in fucking Dragon Ball?
Senzu bean.
Yeah.
Basically.
So, yeah.
But the thing, one of the interesting things of note is that Azo-1 had told Carl that these last a little longer than what the pill actually lasted for Carl, which means that we metabolize these pills that they make. Like they're obviously not made for us, so we metabolize whatever this is faster. So I was kind of thinking,
how do you know that though? Was he hungry?
Yeah, he was feeling hungry. Like he was told it would last X amount of days, and it was actually quicker until he was like, he felt hungry.
When was he? When did we say? Like I missed.
Just
that.
one of the articles.
He was hungry.
It's probably like
one of
2
the
days or something like that after he left the hospital. I think, something like that.
And he was like,
I don't think he ate while he was in the hospital. Like
no, I remember reading he didn't eat for days.
Right.
Yeah, and it was he noted that it lasts like for him.
Well, it's either that or how do you know that there wasn't missing time while he was on this ship?
Well, to be honest, that's part of what I was wondering too. If this is some sort of time dilation thing where he's gone, he's back, he's been gone for days, but for us here, he's been gone for minutes, right, or something like that. I wasn't.
Yeah, that's
sure.
what makes sense to me. I think because you would think that they would like everything that he's saying to Carl would be in human standards, right? If he's gone as far as like they study these people, they know the language, he's going to know, he's going to be putting this in human terms, I would imagine. Right?
Yeah, he's going to present himself in a way, say if he's not a physical being, he's going to present himself in a way that we would understand and be able to react with.
He couldn't give himself some more teeth.
They got the wrong picture from the internet.
He could only render 3 teeth. Really upscaling his whatever's going on here.
Where are they? How south are they?
He's like
might be a lot.
Wyoming.
It's
north.
Wyoming.
Yeah, he's like 720p upscaling to 1080p. That's what it is.
Filling in.
He's like, this doesn't look right.
So Azo-1 was telling Carl that they had to come to Earth because their ocean of their planet, he described it as being yellow. Like their ocean is yellow on their planet, and that all the fish within that ocean have died. So they had to go to Earth. And I think they might not have just said not just Earth, like there were other planets that they were going to, that they had to retrieve resources from. So I also went forward to show Higdon an actual map of their planet, showed him on some type of display, and told him specifically that they were 163,000 light miles from Earth.
What the fuck is a light mile?
That's pretty much what Carl asked him, because Carl, is aware that he's like, he said that, he asked also, like, do you mean light years? Is what you're referring to in terms of measure of distance, and the kind of also apparently kind of like waved him off and just kind of been like the passage of time is different.
No, yeah, he's like, listen, America won. We use Imperial everywhere. All right, in the future, Imperial everything. Right.
So a light mile would be the distance that light travels.
Travels in a mile.
Everyone knows that's like 3.5 light kilometers.
1.6 light kilometers.
1.6. 1.6. I mixed up the conversion there. It's confusing.
So 161,000 light miles.
163,000 light miles from Earth.
So, okay, so it's like not that, in terms of light years, it's not that far, is what we're saying here.
Or maybe it's further than
not.
Well, if light's traveling at, was it almost 300,000 kilometers per second? You're getting huge fucking numbers.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
So, but a light year would be multi-billion or trillions of whatever kilometers. Right. So a light mile would be maybe just like a couple star systems over.
Yeah. He also says like the passage of time is different. So it's like, it's not like I guess,
Well, I guess
he
it
can't
depends
use a
how big their star
maybe
is.
he does have to use miles as opposed to like he's not using.
Well, he's
a year.
As we said, like how he speaks and looks, he's just using miles just for Carl himself.
Right. So after this, Carl remembers, under hypnosis later, he would recall actually seeing what appeared to be other human beings there. He recalled seeing at least like 2 young girls, one around 11 and one in her early teens. He said he saw a teen couple that was probably about 18 years of age, and then also an older man in his probably about his 50s is what he estimated.
When I'm reading it, didn't describe these other people he's seen as only having like the big buck teeth. As far as I know.
These were humans,
Regular human
from
people.
what he could see.
Yeah. So you got a weird crew. You got a weird crew on the ship.
Yeah.
2 young girls, an 11-year-old, a couple of 18-year-olds, a 50-year-old, and 5 elk. Like, it's a weird crew.
I was going to say.
Right?
Well, this was in the facility. This is on the planet. Like he saw these ones like while they're in the thing.
The weird thing about the humans that Carl counts under regression is that like they weren't shocked. They didn't really talk to him. They weren't like they didn't
even notice him.
They didn't even seem surprised, upset. Like they were just going about business, like business as usual kind of thing. So he kind of speculated that these might be androids, but I kind of thought right away, I'm like, maybe these are some sort of hybrids that are living there.
Yeah,
Okay.
should have tried to count how many teeth they have in front. So
That's interesting because I feel like these things aren't awfully concerned with hybrids because they look nothing like us. Right? Like they
have similarities, but they don't look perfectly human. That's for sure.
No, right? Like and when we get into like the grays are the ones that are off trying to supposedly get hybrids, right? Because you get into the Netany and all that shit, and it kind of makes sense that that's us from the future. But like you tell us, in the future we develop drill hands and fucking
And you got an old simple Jack face.
Hey, there's every possible outcome in every possible reality. That's what's happening
So
here.
we're going to turn into a bunch of fucking drill-fisted, chinless sons of bitches.
In some reality, that's what happens to
Drill
the human
fisted
race.
Chince McMahons.
After these events, after seeing the humans, which didn't seem shocked at all, and didn't really even take any notice, like Carl said that he didn't even get a chance really to talk with them because pretty much that.
Well, they didn't. I thought he said that it was like they didn't even know he was there.
Right, like he saw them from a distance, is what I saw as they described it. Like he saw them from like a pretty not super far, but enough to kind of like make out what their ages were, obviously, as he mentioned. And, but he didn't get a chance to talk with them or anything like that. They just kind of like were going about maybe, again, if this is something that is regularly happening, then they probably just didn't really care because it's like, oh, they're just bringing in another person. Like maybe it's a regular
everyday thing.
on also one's planet.
Perfect. A new drill hole.
So, just as promised, Ozo 1 was returning Carl would return Carl to Earth. And so Carl recalls the return trip. And on this trip, at least one of the events that, that stuck in his mind that he was recalling later, he said that Carl remembers that the Ozo was actually like admiring his weapon, his rifle they had brought along with them, I suppose. And, he remembers that Ozo kind of referred to he's like, this is pretty nice. It's for a primitive weapon. And like Carl remembers like taking offense to that. Kind of be like a primitive.
Buddy,
like,
he froze time
This is a fucking
and you're going to
Winchester.
take offense.
I just bought this.
Buddy, motherfucker froze your bullet. And then he goes at primitive and you're going to be upset. Right. You didn't take offense to him drilling your ass, but you're going to take offense to him calling your gun, making fun of your gun. Okay. Carl.
Carl also remembers that Ozo retrieved the pills that had been given to him. That pack of pills that had been floated over to Carl, and Carl had taken
pills.
Ozo took them back. And Carl said that he was also kind of miffed about that too, because he's like, this is the only piece of evidence,
tangible evidence
that I would something really
That can't be the
strange
case.
happened.
Braden said there's tons of tangible evidence in this case.
Well, we'll get to more of the evidence here. Some more of the weird oddities.
Now, according to Carl, he was pretty much unceremoniously dropped on the edge of a pretty much 9-foot rocky incline. They just kind of like plopped him out.
They just
according to Carl. Yeah, they just kind of threw him out. Like, sounds like they just
can't do anything for us. We don't want to play with you anymore. See ya.
Close enough. You're out.
Yeah, and he took a pretty...
Cash is on the nightstand.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
He took a pretty bad tumble down this one because they were saying that he sustained like a number of minor injuries and after he reached the bottom of this, because he fell down it. Like he tumbled down this 9-foot incline. But after recovering from, this mental shock, somewhat, Higdon says that he made his way back to his truck, which he determined, from what he was seeing, is that the truck was probably about 3 to 5 miles from where he remembered parking it initially. The vehicle had been moved, but he managed to find the vehicle, get inside, and then in there, in the front seat, Carl pretty much said that he collapsed for a time just from the stress and shock of what he had just experienced.
I don't think it was from stress and shock of the experience, because the experience has his down. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought space withdrawals from whatever they gave him is what was happening to him, because that's like he doesn't describe the experience as like a truly stressful. Like he's pretty calm through the entire thing, and then all of a sudden as he gets back, he's just like she's all shaky. He can barely function. I thought it was like some sort of space drugs to allow him to function on their home or whatever.
Well, even just travel too in the spaceship. Like he took him to their planet. You think that would fucking be hard on your body, right?
I mean, I think he was still experiencing like stuff from that light that he saw, like, because that was still like messing with him. Like they were still, because eventually when they would go to the hospital, like he would feel stuff, like they was still being affected by that the exposure to that light, that illumination, like had some physical effect on him of some sort.
Well, it's lucky too, because it's lucky that, in the woods, because it's not like they had cell phones back there then, but Carl had a CB radio.
He did.
So he starts going like unintelligible, like rambling on the radio, like begging for help.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where it's like they call his wife. Like some of his workers call his wife and they're like, "Hey, do you know where Carl is?" And she's like, "I don't know. He's out hunting. He hasn't come back yet. Like I was a little worried, but I think he was going elk hunting. He may have gotten elk." And they're like, "All right, we got someone on the CB radio. We think it's Carl, and he may need help." Right? They're like, no one really knows where he is. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on with this guy. Like, because Carl basically just keying a mic.
Carl, recalls being on the CB, and he managed to get a hold of somebody, and they kind of, they're asking him, who is this? Where are you? He didn't even know his name. Like Carl said that he was in such a state that he couldn't even recall what his name was. Like he didn't know where he was. He didn't know exactly what he was doing. But he managed to said that he marked a sign, when they asked him where he was, and it was like Northern Border National Forest. But they said that didn't really help them at all, because it's like,
big fucking place.
It's a big fucking forest. Like we don't know what national forest could be anything. They were concerned. It was later in the evening. Carl hadn't returned home or anything like that, and so
mind you, it's the same night. It's the same night.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So whatever time it was now, like he left.
There's still one thing.
Probably around midnight.
He got there about 4 is when he got there.
I want to backtrack just a little bit to when he gets back. So because the story claims that his truck was 3 to 5 miles away from where he parked it. Yeah, that's a long way to just not know where your truck could be if it's not where you parked it. So did he just like stumble down the road and he just got lucky, or like, because that part of the story was kind of like, all right, it was 3 to 5 miles away from where I left it. How did you find it in you could have went any direction 3 to 5 miles.
I kind of thought. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, well, I think it's like maybe like after the fact, like he kind of said that was 3 to 5 miles.
That's what I thought. That's what I read too. When I was looking at it, I thought he was plopped by his truck,
right?
And then when he figures out where he is, And later we know they have to retrieve the truck. He goes, well, this is not where I fucking parked my truck. I parked it 3 to 5 miles over yonder.
Yeah, but he still got to his truck, which was 3 to 5 miles away because that's where the CB radio was.
No.
Yeah, but I think he got dropped
near the truck.
He dropped near the truck, but wherever the truck was, the truck had already been moved.
So they had moved his truck while he's aboard the spacecraft, and they plopped him back, but they didn't put the truck back in the right spot.
It would seem that way.
Okay,
it would appear that way.
I was a little confused on how the truck got to where it was.
Which makes me think that whatever this like cube of like the cone of silence that they put on him, right? If the affected area may have included his truck, right? So like when he was brought back, like the truck just moves too. We'll get into that more later. But so like the sheriffs, a search party, search and rescue, they're going out to try to find Carl at this point. Like his wife's a wreck. She's got a friend.
Yep. And so they couldn't even, it took a while to find Carl. Like it took them a while. They didn't even kind of figure out exactly where Carl was and his vehicle until just before midnight. But where they found it, like absolutely astounded the officers because they found Higdon's 2-wheel drive truck bumper deep in pretty much like a mud sinkhole in the center, out in a forest ravine that there is no real,
there's no access,
like, practical way. Like there was no practical way that was clear to them that the truck could have gotten here, that he could have driven his truck there.
Like people on the scene said it was as if the truck had just been dropped from the sky into this spot it was, because like eventually when they recovered the truck later on, like some of the reports I read that they had to cut down trees and basically like make a path to get towing equipment in there.
There was no wheeled access to where the truck was found.
Yeah.
There goes the story.
They had to go there by foot initially. Like they had to go there they couldn't get there with wheeled vehicles. They had to get there by foot, exactly where Carl's truck was. So once they got a hold of Carl, Carl was taken to the closest hospital for evaluation, which was Carbon County Memorial Hospital in Rawlins.
Yeah, but hold on. There's a little bit more weird stuff I'd like to quickly get into. One of the things his wife accounts is that like when they get him, like he is like a shell of himself. He's like not talking. He's just like staring up at the sky. They like put him in a vehicle. He's just like looking up through the windshield, like into the stars. And his wife like is like, did you get an elk? And like, he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know who anyone is. He doesn't know what's going on. And he's just like, they took the elk. They took my elk. They took my elk. Like, that's all he can say. And he's just like looking up through the car, and like it freaks out his wife so much that like one of his buddies is like, hey, why don't I take Carl into my car, right, and drive with him? And so she takes Carl, and she tells the story of that, like at some point they pull over for a second and the headlights like spook Carl, and he just jumps out of the car and like starts freaking out, and sheriff deputies actually pull their guns out on him, like draw as if they're going to shoot him. And I was like, well, why do they have guns out on him in the first place? And like they were going to shoot him in the back, and he's like running around. And then she realizes that it's the headlights kind of freaking him out. She's like, turn off the headlights. They turn off the headlights, and he just like goes back docile, walks back into the car and sits down, and then continues to go on about how they took his elk. They took my elk. They took my elk, until he gets to the hospital. Right? Like total like shock, like not even himself, like ridiculous, like some sort of severe PTSD, traumatic event obviously happened. But I guess if someone had
it sounds more like a psychosis.
Yeah, or something like, and again,
it's drug-induced
right
psychosis.
Away. And that's funny you say that, Zell, because right away, the doctors, Dr. Taco, who was the examining physician at the hospital, thought, he's like, this guy's on fucking drugs.
Dr. Taco.
Dr. Taco.
Tonko.
No, it's Taco.
Taco in this circumstance, we'll go with Taco.
Okay.
No, I watched the video. It was Taco.
I just like,
How sure are you?
I read it.
Dan,
so I was like,
how
I just
are
read
you
it as TONGCO. So
well, and they had quite the accent because I heard Dr. Taco.
yeah.
And he went like, this guy's high as fuck. Let's do a drug test. Drug test comes back negative.
Negative?
Right? But negative.
No substance found?
No space drugs.
Because they actually have to like send the blood panel away. They can test for alcohol and stuff like that. But if they want like a full drug panel, they have to send it away and get any idea of what he's actually on. You can rule out a few like key drugs, but you can't rule out everything like that.
Right.
We don't have
everything at once, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not screening for space drugs, space pills.
No, these drugs aren't even on the list of, you can't test for them.
Yeah. How do you test for drugs you don't even know about? How do you test for slow-mo? Right? You don't even know
the
it.
thing is, though, is you'd imagine, though, that these drugs would elicit some type of fucking chemical response in your body, though, and they would be able to see, dopamine levels, whatever, spiked in your blood work.
Because I think, I don't know if they tested for drugs specifically, but they did do blood work. Like they did blood work because they talked about how at least maybe not within the first few hours, but while he was staying in the hospital for, I think he spent about 3 days in the hospital recovering. When they got his blood work back, there was enough kind of strangeness to be remarked on that they said like his blood seemed to kind of be enriched with like a number of vitamins and minerals. They said it was kind of like, it was remarkable. It was something strange. It was just like something they could remark on. It was not something that's totally out of the ordinary.
He had severe,
weird.
Prior to this incident, he had severe kidney stones that very painful. He would have to pass, and he had I can't remember
he had scarring on his lungs because he had come in contact with tuberculosis when he was younger.
Yeah, and both of those ailments were seemingly cured after this event.
Right.
I mean, like kidney stones, you pass them, they're gone, you're not going to see them. You don't heal from scarring on your lungs. That's not a thing. Like you don't get better from that. If you have scarring on your lungs, that's a lifelong affliction that does not improve. Like that's just something you mitigate the symptoms of.
I'm not discounting the fact that maybe they could have, spontaneously healed or something like that. But I feel like we had talked about a case where somebody, they had taken bad x-rays or something. And then somebody had like said, oh no, they healed the tuberculosis scars, but it was just like bad x-rays or something. I feel like we talked about that somewhere.
I feel like that's this.
Yeah, could be an error.
I don't know if, it might have been something like that.
Well, it is 1974.
Like not ruling it out.
But think about that though, right? Like it's, this guy, he took those pills. They said they were food pills. All of a sudden, his blood work is all hitting peak nutrient levels, and he's healed. It's like that's what those pills did.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to want to, let's say, hey, we want to breed this guy, we want to study him, we want to fucking eat him, whatever the fuck we want to do with him.
We want to eat.
We're going to make sure that he's,
that's
cream of the crop.
That's an interesting point that you said. Breed him, because if you remember, they said to him like, listen. You're not what we're looking for here. We're not what we're looking for.
He's fucking impotent.
He had a vasectomy.
He's shooting blanks.
Right? So part of me thinks that
they can fucking they could travel to Earth, but they can't just reattach some vas deferens or whatever the fuck they are.
Their surgical procedures are far less than us, but maybe there's recovery time, right? And that's not something they were willing to wait. So they go to Earth, they pick up a breeding male, right? And they're like, hey, come back to our planet where we seemingly only have children. It's fucked up. But anyway, like either way, he doesn't suit the purpose. So to me, I was kind of like, maybe they have hybrids or a hybridization program, right? And he doesn't work. And he seemingly thought that too. But he spends 3 days in hospitals. And one of the weird things for me is that like he didn't really remember anything. He doesn't remember his wife. He's like flirting with his wife, being like, "Oh, you're good looking. You're a good looking girl." Like this, and his daughter comes in, and the second he sees his daughter, everything clicks. He remembers everything. All his memories come flooding back to him in that instant. Like not about the encounter, but like he remembers who he is, where he is. It's like whatever this psychosis was, he kind of thought that maybe it was some sort of program his wife thought that maybe it was something to do with his daughter, and that was a trigger to get his brain back.
Right.
I got to go off on a tangent really quick.
I love tangents.
Before you go on there.
Go
Let's
ahead.
do it.
Okay. So here's the weird thing, right? Like right away, when it almost seems like fucking asshole one here kind of has a little bit of respect for the guy, right? Like he's been polite to him the whole time. He's showed him around the ship. He took him to his planet. He kind of like talked to him man to man. And I feel like there's a little bit of respect there. And what my brain kind of goes to, he's like, he respects him. And what does he know about him, supposedly right off the bat? Well, he knows he's a hunter. Maybe these guys are hunters. And maybe they're fucking kidnapping. Like you look at it, they're planets out of fish, right? They're taking elk, which is something that you can hunt, and maybe they would hunt people too.
Well,
So maybe that's what they're taking.
Type of scenario.
Yeah. Well, and they're trying to repopulate their fucking planet with game, stuff to eat.
That's a good point. I thought that too, but I thought I had a different little thought. I thought because remember they're taking 5 elk, they're taking the fish, they're breeding, they're farmers. They're farming food. The pills are
So the
people.
humans are going to be slaves?
The pills are people.
Well, they said the pills were made of the fish and the animals.
And soon humans.
Okay.
We are the animals, Dan. We are the animals.
And DMT.
Well, we're probably animals to them, though, right? That's
Right.
like-
But
We're
it
all
just
animals.
seems to me like when you saw, I kind of thought that too. I was like, it seems to me like they're bringing enough. Because I'm like, what? You going? You're just going to pick up 5? You're going to have to come back and get more. Like if you got a population feed, your oceans are dry, your animals are dry. It would make sense that you're getting enough that you'd be like, you can start breeding. You're breeding animals. So maybe this is like a one-off thing. It's
maybe
like,
they have a way of accelerate like incubation.
for sure,
and
right? They
everything
have
too,
some
right?
sort of time that we know they have some sort of technology that affects time. If you look at this case, so I was like, maybe they can do something to speed up this process, but like maybe they're picking up like fish and elk from here and then some fucking glizorps and glizops from another planet, right? Who fucking knows? And they're just breeding this. And same with the humans there. Like the humans there, they're like, they don't know it yet, but they're the food.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. And so Carl would also suffer from other kind of like afflictions while he was there. Like we said before, like he had like a severe light sensitivity for like the first day or two. Like they said like the nurse like had to like turn off the lights and like put like a washcloth over his eyes because he kept saying like the light was hurting his eyes.
Well, he had his eye. He had that kind of like that flash burn when he was on the ship, right? When he came down to their planet.
Yeah, and they
That's
said
right.
like that it was enough to remark on that. They said like he had his eyes were bloodshot, like they were noticeably bloodshot when they brought him in,
and watery the whole time. Like that was one of the things that I remember. It was like his eyes were just almost like he was crying, but he wasn't. His eyes were just like they were damaged.
So after his like 3-day 3-day stint in the hospital recovering from the whole event, it didn't really take long for a number of media outlets to kind of get a hold of the story. And, he had various local newspapers calling him for interviews. Like the days after he had gotten out, like almost like the day he got out, like people were calling about it. Like, the sheriffs had probably, already put the story out and all of this. Even the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, like APRO, was like the equivalent of MUFON or like proto MUFON back in the day, was looking towards him, like contacted him, and like some investigators from the organization actually like got in touch with him, talked to him about his experience. So like, and then like weeks later, like November 2nd of 1974, APRO had their consultant and professor of psychology at the University of Wyoming, everybody's favorite regression hypnotist, Dr. Leo Sprinkle.
Dr. Sprinkles. Yeah, that's right, Dr. Sprinkles.
R.I.P.
Tell me where he
He
probed
passed
you.
away, right? Sprinkles
He
passed
did.
away.
Yeah.
He did.
R.I.P.
Right. This year? Or was it last year?
I think it was this
Last
year. Last
Was
year.
this year?
I think it was last year.
Been the last.
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who had been on, countless cases, invested countless cases, utilizing his experience and, his expertise with regression hypnosis, which was the favored technique of the day.
Just about a year today, he passed away.
Destiny to talk about him.
I feel like we do talk about him like every time around this year. It's always like a Leo Sprinkle.
Yeah, around November.
Subconsciously comes up.
Probably. So Sprinkle would actually, he said that he spent over 4 hours with the Higdons, like the entire family, trying to, get information out and trying to, get a little bit more information about what Carl said, like he couldn't remember at the time. On the first attempt of when he performed hypnotic regression, Sprinkle reported that there weren't any really remarkable results. Like nothing really came out. He performed the relaxation techniques. He kind of gave, he gave Carl like a couple of relaxation techniques to kind of, get him into the hypnotic regression state. That conducive state of which you would be able to more easily retrieve those memories that he'd either blocked out due to trauma or something like that. And then, but on the second attempt, which was about 2 weeks later, he said that Carl was able to provide a bit more information about the encounter, and that's where you get some of the things that Higdon talked about that he figured. That he remembered that the reason that these human beings were brought to this alien world was for breeding. Like he got that, or he remembers being under the impression that the aliens had harvested these primarily young humans, except for I guess the 50-year-old guy that he saw, and were using them in some type of propagation program. And so his theory, which was not
50-year-old, like that's the thing about men though. Men keep producing
for quite
for a long time. Maybe this is like a virile fucking.
And so that's a reason why now he remembers this. This is a reason why Carl feels that when they told him that he didn't suit their purpose was due to the fact that in 1965 he had undergone that vasectomy, so he wasn't able to fill that role of which they thought that he was going to take on after they picked him up out of nowhere.
It maybe makes me think that if he didn't have a vasectomy, we may have never seen or heard from Carl again.
Yeah, he could have been taken
just
forever.
been a missing hunter, right? And then you think about that in that sense, missing hunter. How many missing 411 cases of people going missing in national park, missing hunters, people go in the woods and they don't come back. Part of me is I'm like, are these people getting picked up?
So we need to run a cross reference of people
berries,
who
boulders,
have alien abduction experiences and have vasectomies, and which ones have been returned.
Yeah, it's
hey, listen, if I needed any more fucking encouragement to get a vasectomy now,
you got it.
Getting it done, boys. Donzo.
Well, it's the fact that they would actually bring you back and not just like chuck you out the airlock or something.
Well, they pretty much did though. They threw his ass down a cliff.
Yeah, they just tossed him out.
Yeah, they fucking beat it, buddy.
Now, again, the weirdest thing to me in this one is like you're looking at it.
I just wonder if they were
hear this because there's a lot of weird things in this.
Like when they picked him up and the second one like showed up and was like, "Also, you fucking idiot! You fucking idiot! Are you serious? Like we went all the way over there to pick up somebody, and you got this guy.
You could have got anyone.
You could have got anybody. Like you didn't check. You didn't check at all.
Yeah. Why you got that? You didn't even use your drill, right?
Fucking, you got him high on space. Fucking space acid.
Yeah. God damn it.
Well, I felt bad.
It's an interesting case. The most interesting part to me is the truck seemingly just being dropped in the bog. And like them being like, we don't know how, like, because we were kind of joking about a pre-show. It's like, the only real, like, if you're not going to count it just dropping out of the sky, like it's reported like by the people who were there, then he Dukes of Hazzarded, like just he YOLO'd that thing, sent it into
looks
the bog.
like those Duke boys got themselves into a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
To fucking freeze frame above the bog.
But there was like, other than the truck looking like a piece of shit, there was not enough damage to like.
I thought the bumper and shit was missing.
Was the bumper missing?
I didn't
from
see that.
That truck,
Was
that
this an
truck
old
was
truck?
not great. Yeah, that truck was not
No,
great
that
shape.
truck was beat to shit.
Yeah, but that was by all accounts before.
I think according to Carl, in his that interview that he did on that one YouTube video, he did
The
like he didn't
spooky
he say like
trails
there
or
were no
whatever?
tracks, or they said they couldn't find any tracks.
They said there was no tire. There was no tire marks. But one of the ways they found him is they found like a piece of the truck. Like they found the bumper and shit, and that's what brought them to the bog.
Okay.
Well, okay. So they found the bumper hanging somewhere. Like the bumper was so barely hanging on when Ozza 1 picked the truck up, right? The bumper just fell off, right? It wasn't enough. Hey, it was the zap straps were so brittle at that point, they just fucking broke. I don't know. It's an interesting case because when you listen to this guy talk, he doesn't strike me as a bullshitter. The person who I do not like in this case, any interview with his wife reads from her book that she wrote word for word. She doesn't recount her from memory. She reads passages from the book that she wrote.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is the most elaborate story I've ever heard to cover somebody's ass for wrecking the company truck. Okay? Like, just own up, buddy. It's all good. Like, he took the company. Everybody knows when you drive the company truck, you drive it like you stole it.
Of course.
Yeah.
You take liberties, right? And the poor bastard got stuck in the bog, roughed himself up a little bit, conked his head. It's either that or actually when he stopped to help those fucking guys fix their truck. This is the 70s. They dosed his coffee and they got him high as fuck.
Oh shit! I never even thought about
Right?
that.
Like, that's the only other. There's three options, or it's real.
Right? I never even thought about that. They potentially dose him.
Oh,
It's interesting.
the other interesting thing too is the fact that, let's say he was dosed. One of the things that kind of stood out to me is he's an oil rigger, right?
Yeah.
What do they deal with? Drills. What did the alien have on his arm?
A drill.
Randomly. A fucking drill on his arm, right? Like, kind of seems like a fucking, like he's...
From experience in that of like having
a drill on your arm.
Yeah, a drill arm. No, just like shroom trips and stuff. It's like sometimes you do incorporate things that you're thinking about or have thought about that they'll come into play in that kind of hallucination. So that's
how long before this did he get his vasectomy?
That was almost 9 years.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna think maybe he's fucking have some second thoughts with his vasectomy too. So he's just, he's imagining
fresh.
that he's getting rejected because he doesn't fucking.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it would have been a good thing because he'd be like, I got to go back.
Yeah.
Well, it's just,
I mean, it could have been a thing
tying
where
it into his
he was
fucking
kind
trip,
of
right?
having regrets, but this is like, no, it's a good thing. Like trying to convince himself it was a good thing. I mean, it's a choice, but whatever.
I don't know. It's an interesting case when you look at it. We want to know your thoughts.
Crazy.
Let us know your thoughts on social media. We're going to be posting tons of clips of this episode, so let us know in the clips what you think.
If you yourself has experienced space acid, make sure to let us know.
Get us a hit.
4 days. Jesus.
God damn.
Hell yeah. It's fun. All right, this week, Theory of the Week, I think we're going back to a 5-star review, I believe.
Woo! Easy way to get a Theory of the Week.
You don't have to send us stuff.
You don't.
You don't have to.
I mean, it's always appreciated.
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
It
doesn't hurt. You can't.
Hey, I'm just waiting for somebody to, hey, listen, you send us to fucking Turkey, Theory of the Year.
Yeah, easy. Now, this easy way to get it, go Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Apple Podcasts is the best way to leave us a 5-star review. And you can do a nice little write-up. This week's 5-star or this week Theorite of the week is Dave Lando Calrissian. He left us a new 5-star review, and it says, "Fun way to pass the time. Just discovered you guys. Big fan. Keep up the good work." Nice and easy.
How did you not read that?
Sweet.
Like, how did you not read that like Billy D?
I can't do a Billy D.
Oh man, gotta try.
Hell yeah.
I can't even think about it. Think how he talks. Like, how does he talk? How am I doing a Billy? How does Billy
Really
D talk?
fucking cool.
Oh, that's never. I'll never do that.
Yeah, you can't nail that one. He's got
Have
some
you
voices,
heard
but
my
not
voice?
that one.
I just think of Billy D screaming in the Sarlacc pack.
Anyways, if you're not supporting the show by now, you want early access to all the case files, ad-free, all the bonus stuff, you got to go to alientheorist.com. You got to hit the support tab. You got to choose Patreon or Supercast. Support your boys. Support your favorite show. We'd appreciate it. This week's newest supporters, we got Angelica, Spaceman Spiff 21. That guy's taking space fucking acid for sure.
Hondo.
Just Jake and Hopa Falopa goes up in their pledge. Thank you very much for supporting the show.
Listen, we're guessing you noticed. We also noticed. That's not a lot of new donations for this episode. We're never going to get fucking hair if we don't start getting some help here, all right? Look at us, right?
Hideous.
Right? You want to watch the live stream and see us with hair? Come on. Fucking dig deep. It's the seasons of giving. Let's go. All right, help us with our Christmas miracle. Patreon.com/Alien Theories Podcast. And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.